Welcome to the Upshot, Multi-World Disc Golf's podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. I'm the editor, Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me is Josh Mansfield, who had a great day yesterday. Josh, tell us about it.
Yeah, so it actually didn't start out that way. I woke up, I was up early, I was tired, I didn't have any energy. It was freezing outside. So I really didn't want to go to work. I go into the office and my coworkers could tell. I knew they were asking, everything okay? Whatever, it's fine. Come back from lunch and my coworker knocks on my door and she's like, Josh, what happened? Because you have an amazing amount of energy now and you seem like the happiest man alive. And you know, Charlie, I was. Because Russell Wilson got traded to the Denver Broncos. Yesterday was an amazing day. And I am still riding that high.
I should have seen this coming. I'm just hoping this means Jimmy G can get traded at a nice premium now that a couple of the top quarterbacks are off the market. But yes, there's nothing like some spicy trade news. I wish there was something like that in disc golf. I guess we get the sponsorship stuff in the offseason. That's the closest proxy that we get.
The problem is we know about it several months in advance.
All right, so we got a great show for you. We're going to be talking to the TD of the Waco Annual Charity Open, which of course starts tomorrow. It's the second Elite Series event of the season. We've all been waiting for the next event after LVC and talk about a different course, a different event altogether, a lot more unpredictability, and a very different style of golf on display in Waco. So we're not going to waste any time. Obviously, we're going to make our picks a little bit later. We're going to go inside the circle. We've got our over-under for the week. But first, we're going to talk to Ryan Draper, TD of Waco. Coming up. The Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. You know, I've been talking about it. The new smaller bag from Pound, the Rufus, is almost here. You can check out videos of the prototype version 1 and 2 on Pound Disc Golf's new YouTube channel. Just search Pound Disc Golf on YouTube or go to youtube.com/Pound Disc Golf, and you can check out the videos as well as an introduction to their new fly pack, which is available now. I can't wait to get my hands on a Rufus. Already, they've built so many cool new things into just the version 2 of the prototype. So go check out the video and find out more. Joining us now on the Upshot is the longtime tournament director for the Waco Annual Charity Open. Also, a member of the tournament directing staff at Texas States, as well as the Dynamic Discs Open, Ryan Draper, who is also an amateur world doubles champion. So credit to you for getting that world championship. Ryan, welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
So Waco's coming up this weekend. I know you've got lots going on, so we appreciate you making some time for us here on the show. How are all the preparations going right now as you get ready to welcome the pros in?
They're going really well. We're pretty much done on the course. We started setting that up late last week and kind of finished up through the weekend, put all the Pro Tour assets up, got all the final touches done with line painting and drop zones and all those fun things, made sure we had our Mando lines correct. So yeah, we're getting there. We're pretty good.
The new PDGA rules requiring the Mando clarity. Has that been tricky to deal with? I know I've seen a lot of conversation about this online.
Not yet. We haven't really had an event, with the new rules yet, but it's not really too far off from how it was before. It's just a little trickier. And I think, it's just kind of gaining popularity online, I guess. It's not as new as the discussion has been, I'd say. So we'll see this weekend. I don't really some of the ways that the rule works, I don't really foresee having those issues. I think in a lot of cases, at least on our course, it would be hard for some of the trickier stuff to happen. But of course, now that I said that, it probably will, and we'll tackle that as it comes.
Knock on wood, you don't have anything too problematic come up.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
So Brazos Park East is a course that is oftentimes praised for its diversity. Tell us a little bit about this course and why it sets up so well for Waco and for the Pro Tour event.
Yeah, well, just like you said, it's a very diverse course. We have the way that you play the course normally, like the locals, hole 1 starts in the kind of park style area, and then you play 9 holes, and then you go into the jungle, man. Like we usually sing "Welcome to the Jungle" as we're walking through that gate, because you go straight into the woods, and it's a completely different game. And so it's a cool mix of just, you kind of start out with the friendly birds chirping and everybody's having a good time. You're a nice day in the park, and then you just go in and get steamrolled by the course in the woods. So it is a good mix. The way we play it in the Disc Golf Pro Tour layout, we start kind of in the middle of the park style. So you get 3 holes in of some kind of, I guess, easier, you could say, holes, and then you go straight into the back, like I was talking about, and play kind of your middle round there, and then come out into the open. And then you kind of get a teaser of like maybe some easier park style golf, but then it goes right into some tight OBs, some hardcore water carries. There's one with a straight 90-degree turn. I mean, like it's like a square angle basically. And then you have to carry the water. If I think one of the best things about our course is the last hole. If you say, it's happened plenty of times, but say the lead card's going in there and there's a tie for first, you basically have no choice. You got to try to carry that water to the basket, which is pretty cool to see. And depending on the wind, we kind of famously have a lot of commentary during our rounds where people will talk about how easy or hard a hole is in the early rounds, and then the wind will change and the holes plays completely different the last round. So like hole 18 is another good example. It's I'd say it's a fairly easy par 3 with a tailwind, but with a headwind, pretty much nobody in the field is going for the basket. They're all laying up left. So it's a completely different hole. Changes a lot.
The weather's interesting this weekend. Just looking at the forecast for Waco, Friday is going to be raining and really windy and cold. And then it's going to warm up and be sunny, a lot less wind, pretty ideal looking conditions on Saturday. And then the wind picks up again on Sunday. Does that feel like typical Texas disc golf weather?
Yeah, it's funny you say that. It actually does. And we don't even really start generally looking at the weather until maybe 2 days or a day before the event starts, because it'll change. It should be pretty in the ballpark, I'd say, but it'll definitely change before the actual event. And another thing is the wind, like we were talking about, will change. So Friday, usually if you look, Friday and Saturday, it'll be a north wind. And then Sunday, it's supposed to be a south wind. So it'll change the way the course is played completely.
Change, right?
Yeah.
So what are there any notable changes to the course this year that folks watching from home should be aware of?
There really aren't. We tried to kind of leave it alone. We've changed a few things in the past and changed par a little bit, just kind of tweaking things and making sure that they're, accurate, appropriate for Disc Golf Pro Tour play. And I think we have it pretty dialed. One of the things that we're working on actually is maybe a little teaser, but we have a couple of properties that we're looking at that set up really well for championship level courses that we're hoping to add hopefully by next year. We've been working on those for a while, and if we can do that, then I think that'll open up the gates for something even bigger than we have now.
How many spectator passes have you sold for the event this weekend?
Oh man, I haven't looked this morning, but I think it's safe to say we're either sold out or really, really close to sold out.
And how many were available?
I think that's 12 or 1,400.
Wow. The Texas disc golf scene seems like big time. I'm curious.
Yeah, and just to kind of add on to that, I think we're super happy to be able to have spectators, and I think that's part of why at least this year it's been we sold out pretty quickly as far as VIP tickets, and all the kind of special, higher, upgraded level tickets that you could get. We sold out almost insta on those, and I think that's because we were kind of famously ground zero for COVID the first year. And so even in the middle of that tournament, we had to stop allowing spectators for that second round. And the call was made. It was such a crazy weekend, I'll just say. But we kind of went back and forth on what to do, how to do it, how far to go with what we were going to do, and everything, because there was just there was really no guidance there. We were kind of making decisions on what we thought was the safest and the best for the players. And anyway, the reason I say that is because we didn't allow spectators for that second round, and we got the information out there as quickly as we could. But there were people driving from all over the United States to come to that second round. And so some people showed up, and we have this fence that kind of lines the park style holes of our course. And so, yeah, it was interesting seeing all those. It was almost like the Berlin Wall or something. We were all inside this course, just players, media, and staff. That was it. And then all these people outside the course, kind of from the outside looking in. And it was just it was a weird vibe, I'll be honest. It was really interesting because all the players at the same time, that was their careers were kind of up in the air at that point. They had no idea where they were going to go, what they were going to do. And then the second year, we were a phase one event, which meant the same kind of no spectators. And so I think everybody's just super stoked to be able to come and watch the event. And especially everybody in Texas. I mean, we've sold tickets from all over the place, really. But there are a lot in Texas that are like, wow, man, this is going to be great. We're finally going to be able to go watch the Waco. And I think that's kind of bolstered our ticket sales. So we're excited about that. We're excited to the good vibes that the fans bring and all the tables and the interactions that you see and just people getting excited about shots and hearing, there's a point as far as a TD, there's every tournament, it seems like there's a point where you get a free minute, where you're kind of just relaxing a little bit and you walk out on one of the holes, where the closest to where you are at the time or whatever. And you kind of just look out over the one of the fairways and you see, you kind of get a cool perspective and you see all your work kind of come into fruition, and you see somebody throw a shot and you see this big gallery just go bananas and start roaring, and it kind of hits your chest. And you get a feeling in there and you're like, wow, this is really cool, man. We did something really cool. And so I'm excited to get that feeling again. We missed that the last couple of years. So it's going to be cool.
That is so awesome. I was thinking that, that I remember Belton last year was when the first time we really had fans back on the course. So that was obviously after Waco. So I can you just take us back one more time to 2020 when you're planning the event? You at this point, you must have been aware that COVID was a thing in the news. It hadn't really felt like it was a thing in the United States to that point. But I remember when I called Jeff Spring Thursday night after the NBA shut down, and I was like, what's going to happen with Waco? And I mean, basically, I don't think he knew the answer at that point. So you're in the war room, as you might say, and having to try to make these calls. You're seeing everything else, sports are canceling, boom, 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 boom. As soon as the NBA domino fell, we saw tons of things happen over the next couple of days. March Madness got canceled, etc. How did you decide what to do? Ultimately, the decision was play the second round as the final round, no spectators, and then Saturday was canceled. So how did you make that call?
Yeah, well, there was definitely a war room that was real, and it was really tough. There were so many things that went into that decision. I was up till 4 a.m. the previous morning, and we actually had rounds starting. I went to bed at 4 and woke up at 6 to more phone calls, kind of about the same thing. It was just a crazy day. We had seen what was happening around us with other sports organizations. That was really the thing we were the most concerned about and basing our decisions on. Nobody, really knew anything at that point. Even those sports organizations that were making those calls, it was so early at that point that, literally nobody knew anything. Even those organizations were making calls just based on safety, lots of other decisions that went into that. But as far as we were concerned, we thought that it was best to kind of follow along those guidelines. We did decide to run that second day, and a lot of what had to do with that was, the players, as far as we were concerned, everybody that was going to interact had already interacted. Everybody was already there. We had already had a round in the books, and we didn't want to send players home. We didn't want them to have spent all the money to come out to Waco, play the first round of the event, and spend extra money to go home early or figure out what they were going to do with the rest of their year or career. And at that point, because nobody knew, without finishing a second round and actually having a winner, being able to award prizes, and say that we had the tournament in the books. Because if we sent them home without that second round, I mean, it was, we didn't have anything really. It was just a bunch of wasted time, and all those people would have met. That was the other part of the decision. Like, those people, we had all interacted again, like we had all met, and so it seemed like a waste, to do all that and then go home without being able to call it complete award prizes, push winners and media and things like that. So we were very concerned with player safety. I mean, we almost didn't even have the second round. It was a tough decision. But we felt like, if we just didn't allow any extra spectators, anybody that hadn't been a part of the event yet, into that space, that we weren't really, causing any more risk than had already been done, I guess.
So you talked a little bit about, the fence line that you guys put up in order to keep the spectators out. This year, with selling tickets obviously in advance and making an event that you have to pay for, is this park, does the city allow you to shut this park down? Is it publicly owned and you just get a permit and then you're able to fence it off completely from other pedestrians? What is the process to doing that for this event?
Yeah, well, the fence that I was referring to is a permanent fence, so we don't really put anything extra up. But yeah, the fence was actually, the park was actually put in, obviously to enjoy by the public, but also to host events. So there are several events that are hosted there each year. There's a big boat race. If you guys have seen the big drag boats, the jet boats, they have that there, and they even they at one point had permanent stands built. They were kind of on one of the fairways of the disc golf course.
Wow.
Famously, you kind of had to play around those just to spectate those boat races. And those have since been taken out, so they're not in any of the fairways anymore or anything. But there are concerts there all year. Lots of we have like a beer fest there. Lots of events like that. So we have a really, really good relationship with the city of Waco. The kind of the local disc golf scene is kind of credited for cleaning up some of those parks. There was a time where you didn't really want to go to Cameron Park West, which was the park on the other side of the river there. We host the AMs at that tournament, at that course. And so we have a great relationship with them. We work hand in hand with them. On the course, obviously, for any tournaments that we have. We host other events that aren't necessarily disc golf tournaments there every year. So you can go to the city and get a permit. It costs a little bit of money. It's a chunk of change, but you can close the course and host an event and sell tickets and things like that. The only stipulation really is that there are a couple of boat ramps there for the river, and at least one of those waterways has to be accessible, and that's the only kind of stipulation for that.
We've talked about on the show, as we kind of looked ahead to the future of the Disc Golf Pro Tour and getting new events involved, and we've said that maybe Waco or Texas State should be on the Elite Series, but not both. in order to make space for new tournaments. Agree or disagree?
Wow, man, that's really, you're putting me on the spot here. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's tough to say. I think, of course, I'm the TD for Waco, so I'm going to say we belong on the Elite Series forever. So, if I have to make that call, I'm going to say that, sure, we belong on the Elite Series, and maybe something else can swap in and out or alternate or something like that. But, I really feel like we put in a lot of work, and we've always met all the parameters of the Pro Tour each and every year. We usually get some pretty good accolades associated with our event and how it's run and how smooth things are and things like that. Again, now that I said that, who knows what's going to happen this weekend? But yeah, it's tough to say. I mean, you have the famous Texas swing, as they call it now, where and that's all kind of anchored around Waco and the Pro Tour. And if there's a 2-week gap there, maybe there's room for something in, say, let's see, where do we go after that? States, and then this year it's going to be what's after States this year?
The next Elite Series event, I think maybe is Champions Cup.
Is it Champions Cup or Jonesboro?
Back to Jonesboro.
Back to Jonesboro. Okay.
I can't remember the order now.
Okay. So yeah, there could be room for something like in maybe Oklahoma, Louisiana, something like that. Maybe I don't know who's doing stuff over there. I mean, there's a whole lot that goes into an event on the Pro Tour. It's not just, hey, let's go here. You have to have a course that's really a really nice course, a professional level course. And then that course also, can't just be that. It has to also be accessible. You have to have parking. You have to have somebody that's going to be responsible for that and make sure that it's available to rent, or if somebody owns it, that they're willing to do something like that, because it's a big undertaking, and then you're gonna take some damage to the course. It's a lot of traffic that goes through there. You have to have somebody that's a person that's willing to run the event and put in all that work and can raise that amount of money. That's kind of one of the bigger things for these events is it's a lot of money to raise. The parameters for hosting an event get kind of bigger and bigger every year. The pot gets bigger and bigger. The media stuff gets bigger and bigger. So it's not just, hey, let's pick a spot, not in Texas or that makes sense in between this event and the next one. There's kind of more that goes into it. And if there's somebody willing to do that, or if you have a good TD somewhere, then sure, yeah. Sorry, that was kind of a convoluted answer, but maybe I'm dancing around it like a politician.
No, I mean, you're right. Like, it's not just about having a course and running a tournament. There's obviously a lot more to it than that. I mean, speaking of, how has the fundraising process been for you? And what can we expect this year in terms of added cash? I know that kind of ratchets up every year, basically. So how have you approached that? And is Magnolia Farms going to be a sponsor yet?
Magnolia is not a sponsor yet. In fact, we've kind of famously have our event at the same time as their big yearly event, and so that's actually been pretty interesting because Waco, everybody usually has like a host hotel or something that they've arranged with whoever was some host, right? And in Waco, because we're on the same weekend as the Magnolia event. You go to a hotel and they're like, yeah, okay, cool. That's great news, man. We can't help you. We've been full for a year, but enjoy your disc golf tournament, So, that's just been interesting. I think they're on a different weekend this year. I think we finagled an earlier weekend, and they're a little bit later on or something. So luckily people have a place to stay. It's usually pretty hard hosting everyone. But yeah, the fundraising process, to be honest, it gets, it's weird. It should get easier every year because, you just kind of build up relationships and, and people like what you're doing. I think we're a really, really good value for any company out there. I mean, this has probably been said by everybody, but compare this event to like a golf event or some other sporting event, and the barrier to entry in disc golf is like so low that it's such a value. I mean, especially with the media nowadays, they're getting probably more eyes than they ever would with whatever regional or local golf tournament that they could put their money into. And I think it's a cooler, more unique, audience. So, a little younger, maybe hipper. So, I think that adds value to companies that are looking to actually advertise. Companies that are marketing towards golf, I think they generally already have a pretty good base clientele. And I think if you're looking to do something, make a splash, disc golf is for sure the way to do it. But that being said, the base added cash grows every year. So as you think it's going to get easier, you have to raise a little more every year. So, I'd say as a tournament director, that may be one of the tougher parts, maybe the toughest part of running an event like this. But so, we're going to be adding 25,000 minimum this year. We're adding a pretty good amount of cash to the AM side as well as part of it. So we're pretty happy with what we've been able to do. We either meet or exceed the Pro Tour parameters every year, and I think going forward, when the bigger the sport gets, the more media we get involved, the easier it is to raise money. When you bring some of the videos that are shot into a meeting room or something, and you're pitching your event to a company, and you show them the level of professionalism and the production quality of the event. I mean, it's a kind of a no-brainer. It sells itself sometimes. Usually, on a first meet, somebody's expecting you to come in there and just, have a little chat with them and say, hey, I like disc golf. It's pretty cool. Check us out, And then you bring something like that in there, and they're like, their eyes pop wide open, and they're like, wow, I didn't know that this was happening. I didn't know this was the level that you guys were at. And so it makes it a lot easier, I'll say, for sure. So thank you to all the media.
So one thing that we have talked about, and not discussing Waco at all, but just as a TD in your experience, we've discussed maybe some events create a rotating cycle where, for example, one year it's Waco, next year it's Texas States, and then comes back to Waco the year after. As a TD, would that make your life harder, feel about the same, or be easier to do in order to run and raise the necessary cash for a Pro Tour event?
I have talked about this before. I think there are lots of different angles on it. I kind of feel like the consistency of knowing that you're going to be on the tour makes it easier, in my opinion. I mean, if you have a spot on the tour, and that you're going to have that audience, you're going to be able to. It makes it way easier to raise the money, and you just kind of know what to expect every year. You kind of get into a routine. I think that's easier for me. Because I think when you start doing the alternating thing, I personally think that it can affect the consistency of the tournaments. I think that you have somebody either taking a break for, if it all goes perfectly and you're alternating every other year, you're still having someone take a break for that full 2 years or whatever, and then having to kind of ramp back up after the second year. But what I think would happen even more is that it would allow for more events to kind of shimmy their way in there, which isn't, I don't think that necessarily is a bad thing, but I think that any event's first year on the Pro Tour is not going to be the smoothest. It just, you can have a super tournament director, great communication, everything, but a lot goes into it. And I think that it would just affect the consistency for the players and the tour itself if you're introducing new events every year.
Yeah, it makes sense. Do you take a salary as a tournament director? And do you think that this is a potential full-time profession for people in the future?
I don't take a salary. Tournament directors are notoriously unpaid volunteers. And I know that there are some out there these days that are making money. I hope they're making good amounts of money. And I do think that, the way things are going, there's definitely opportunity to make this a profession. If you look at golf, and I'm not one of the biggest fans of always comparing our sport to golf, because it is definitely a different animal. It has golf in the name, but there are a lot of things that are very different from golf to disc golf. So let me just say that first. But if you do look at golf, tournament directors on the PGA Tour, that's what they do. They run one event a year, and they make a yearly salary running that one event. And it's because so much goes into that, it's an immeasurable amount of work that goes into running one event on the PGA Tour. And so I think, as we grow, we could get to something like that. Maybe, who knows, we may never be something on that level where a tournament director runs one event and calls it quits and all right, I'm good for the year. But it would be nice to run a few events every year and put the amount of work that you should to make those really good events and be compensated for that, so that we can run really nice, professional, fair events that people enjoy coming to. I mean, it's not just about running an event for the players to come play. You're running an event that's going to that works well for the media to make, to create storylines, to look good on film, you're running an event for the spectators to come enjoy themselves. And so that they're not just coming to watch a couple of people play Frisbee in a park, that they're actually coming to watch professionals in a professional event and have a good time. And there's ancillary events going on, things at the park, whatever. So they're doing more than just standing around watching when they want to do more than just stand around and watch, and then, most importantly, I think you're running an event for the players to feel like they're professionals. I mean, they're, it all kind of works together. The players, I think, should feel like they have actual careers now, and that they are professionals, and that they're working on something real that means something, whereas this isn't a knock on anybody in the past or anything, but it just wasn't at the level that it's at now. And I think, there's so much media that goes into the players. There's so much presence that they have, so much, I don't know about if power is the right word, but sway maybe, or what's the word I'm looking for? Influence,
clout.
And so it's a real thing, and I think that doesn't happen without they're not doing it all themselves, and that's not to take away from them, but things like that couldn't happen without a lot of hard work in the background by the other people putting these types of events on.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's going to be crucial in the next few years that TDs like you, who are grinding and working really hard to put on great events, get paid, because otherwise you have big burnout problems, and it's just it's work like anything else. But we're getting there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say, I don't know if I mentioned this, but I think, our event is a charity event, so that's a part of it as well.
Sure.
But we are there. If not there, we're on the cusp of it. I mean, with ticketing and media that's going into it now, people are purchasing the rights to these events, or at least the tour. And And so, yeah, those are all kind of things that are lining up towards, yes, this could be a real career.
All right, last question. What are the skills required to succeed at the Beast?
Oh man. Okay. Well, the number one skill I would say is patience. When it is a cool course. It is diverse, like we talked about, and that kind of lends itself towards, you're having fun out in the park. Like I said before, the birds are chirping, you're throwing good shots, you're throwing thrower type shots, and then you hit that gate that goes into the woods, and all of a sudden you hit a tree and you're deep in the rough, and you're like, it could be really easy to say, man, I was killing it, I was on track to shoot a 10 down, and this tree right here just screwed my entire round, and then kind of snowball from there. So definitely patience, having a good head on your shoulders, having a game plan, realizing that something's going to happen in the woods. Like it's almost just there's no possible way around it. At least something or other is going to happen in the woods, and you're going to have to deal with it, figure it out. And so just kind of go in there knowing that, a forehand is really good, famously on our course. Coling, I think, won the first year that we were actually on the pro tour, by just throwing those buttery flip up forehands through the woods. There's a couple holes back there where, most people, they have weird shapes, right? And they kind of go left and then right instead of right and then left. And they kind of snake a little bit. So he's got, anybody with a nice left-handed flip up or a right-handed forehand flip up that can, start straight, go left, and then go back right again, can snake through there just right, can actually have a huge advantage if they're throwing nice shots on 2 or 3 of the holes in the back. And then, when you get to the front, power is a big one. I mean, there are some of those holes that, are kind of, some would say tweener holes. I say those are the holes that you put on your course so that the guys that can throw 600 feet can take advantage of that once or twice, I think those are important holes. I mean, there's been a lot of discussion about courses and distances and, what pros should have and all this. I feel like you should have a couple tweener holes on your course. That's probably a hot take. But, if you throw 650, there should be a couple holes that only you can get. You should separate yourself from the rest of the field because you can do that. And the ones on our course, I feel like, they're there. But 15 is a good example. It's like 560, but it's tight. I mean, there's an OB road right on your left. The fairway is maybe, 30, 40 feet wide the whole way. There's OB right on your right. There's OB deep. So yeah, man, you can throw 550 and 560 and get there, but it's not just you're not throwing in an open park to do it, So, yeah, patience, power. Putting is a good one on our course. There are several greens that are around water. There's several elevated greens. Yeah, patience, power, putting. Wow, I did 3 Ps. Let's keep it at that.
Boom! You just coined the thing. That's perfect.
Yeah,
that's what we're going to be focusing on now for years to come at Waco.
Right.
Patience, power, and putting. Awesome. Well, Ryan, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to talk with us, and best of luck with the event this weekend.
I appreciate it, guys.
Ryan Draper, TD of Waco, here with us on the Upshot. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Upshot. Really great to get some insight from Ryan on the tournament and, putting together this event over time and, what it's like to run a Disc Golf Pro Tour event. I think the thing that stands out the most to me is that, they have basically sold out of tickets. I went and I checked the website. We're recording this on Wednesday, and there were only 50 tickets left and only for Friday general admission. So all of the weekend tickets are sold out. Everything's sold out. I've seen people online being like, oh my God, I didn't think it was going to sell out. Like, can I get tickets at the door? I honestly don't know. I think maybe that's just like better luck next time.
I mean, I think it's going to get to the point that tournaments across the country, but especially in disc golf hubs, right? I mean, Texas has a very thriving disc golf scene.
One of the best scenes in the country, I think.
I completely agree with that. And so I'm not surprised at all that you bring that tournament back here. And, as Ryan mentioned, they weren't able to have spectators last year because they were still in phase 1. And so now they're actually getting to bring spectators in. The hype around disc golf is bigger than it's ever been. There are hundreds, if not, there are thousands of new players who've joined on. It's not shocking to me at all that Waco is going to have success in spectators, and I wish you luck and hope that you are able to get your tickets.
Well, here's another interesting thing. I mean, I looked up Waco on the map. It is right dead center, basically in the middle of all of the major metro centers in Texas. It's driving distance from Dallas. It's driving distance from Houston. It's driving distance from Austin and San Antonio. So I think it makes sense. Like, you have these big cities of strong disc golf communities. And, Waco is not a particularly large city, but, you have the people in Waco, obviously, but plus all of these major metros. This feels like a tournament that could continue to grow. I mean, I honestly wonder if it starts to get like a little bursting at the seams. The interesting thing about Waco is that its entire course is on a little strip of land right along the river. And so there's just not a lot of room to do different stuff than they're doing now. I think there's, Ryan mentioned that they basically haven't touched a course. There's not that much to touch. Like, you can't necessarily do big hole redesigns given the sort of land constraints, but that also means you have constraints on things like spectators. So you'd have to get creative if you wanted to try to open up more tickets for next year. But, it's got a little bit of that, like, this whole tournament's kind of like got a weird vibe to it. It's like this tournament, like on this little strip of land, and we have all of these, strange past winners. Like, if you look at the list, I mean, let's go down the list. Last year, of course, people will remember Kona Panis and Nicola Castro won. Panis won by 12 strokes. So, like, people catch fire at this tournament. Nico, remember, hit that crazy laser putt, like, in the headwind that just went straight in. And, like, he was kind of a villain at the tournament. And, like, remember, he was talking trash on social media afterwards about people who were, like, booing him. And then, you go back a year, 2020. This is the shortened COVID event that Ryan talked a bunch about. Colton Montgomery wins. Evelina Salonen and Henna Blomroos went 1-2 in FPO. 2019, kind of a more typical Paul Macbeth, Katrina Allen victory. And then 2018 and 2017 was back-to-back wins from both Jeremy Colling and Paige Pierce. So you kind of have, like, not a lot of repeat winners. You have to go back 5 years to find repeat winners. Some names at the top who've literally never won another Elite Series event. And I just think this is like it's like this cool early tournament that's so different than a lot of the other courses and just results that we tend to see over the course of the season.
And one thing that Ryan talked about that I hadn't personally realized, I mean, I knew there's the open park style course, and then there is the woods side, but if you look at the caddy book, it's a line. They have a gate that if it is nice park and then just green for the entire stretch of the woods course. You don't slowly transition in, you go across the gate into the woods, and that's when you start playing. I think it's really cool. And what I really appreciate about it is that the park style course really feels kind of like what disc golf at its base, or like at its foundation of what it was. It was at a park with using whatever obstacles you could find and trees in order to make interesting shot lines that really appeal to a general public, but has been elevated to meet the standards of pros. And I love that. I love that. It makes it feel like what disc golf at its really foundation was meant to be. And so I love watching this tournament, and I love the variety that you get from the winners as well.
Now, we got to talk about the weather. It's going to be raining and windy on Friday for round 1. This is a 3-round event. And remember, no Eagle, no Drew Gibson, for those of you who are thinking about your picks and stuff. Eagles taking the Texas swing off because of his shoulder injury, and he doesn't feel comfortable. There are too many forehands out here, he said. Drew Gibson mentioned in the post interview after LVC that he's working on getting a house, getting stuff together, so he's taken a couple events off as well. So the weather, around 50 degrees, raining, and big wind up to like 20 mile per hour winds sustained on Friday. Then it's going to be beautiful on Saturday, much lower wind, sunny. And then Sunday, the wind picks back up in the opposite direction, which Ryan basically mentioned that can happen. And that is what the forecast shows. So we're going to have extremely different conditions over 3 days. And it's not often that we come to a tournament and have that effect of weather being quite different on different days. Sure, like some days you'll have more wind than others, but a lot of times you see pretty consistent weather conditions over the course of an event. To have 3 very different days, I think really adds to the challenge on this course because you have to be able to calibrate your shots very carefully. And, that wind is going to probably have an effect even in the woods.
I completely agree. And I think the other thing that it changes up, Gannon talked about this for LVC just a little bit. It changes the way that you have to practice. Because if the weather during practice rounds doesn't coincide with the weather during the tournament, it becomes very difficult then to practice your game plan in conditions that don't match at all what you're going to have to be playing in during the tournament. Gannon talks about the fact that, throwing a putter as that upshot was next to impossible during warm-ups at LVC. He was throwing fairway drivers for that second shot. And so it's a shot that he just hadn't practiced at all. That's going to be the same thing here, where if it's a tailwind all week for practice and they're able to practice going for hole 18, and then as soon as it turns into a headwind, I think you're going to see a lot of pros who are dropping discs in the drink because of that headwind that they just simply didn't have the chance to practice in, or even going long because they just don't know what that power takes. And of course, if you played here before, I'm sure there's some idea, but it definitely changes the way that pros are going to have to practice and warm up for the tournament and adapt their game plan on the fly. I think it's going to make those who have consistent games, regardless of the weather, going to be a huge advantage, both because of just the changing conditions during the tournament, but also from practice rounds to tournament.
Yeah, I mean, we are going to have different conditions for these couple practice rounds. So we're again recording Wednesday. It's going to be mild, 62 degrees, sunny, very light wind. Then on Thursday, to the day of the show will come out, it's going to be a little bit windy, about 10 mile per hour winds, warm, 72 degrees. Then the temperature drops 20 degrees, the wind changes direction, and it's showing at 3 p.m. 23 mile per hour winds going south. So good luck, everybody. Depending on when your tee time is also probably going to have an impact. I think it looks like the wind is going to be worse later in the afternoon. So your feature cards for MPO are probably going to have a tougher time than people who are going out in the morning. Could have an impact on scores. So no major changes to the course this year. We kind of know what to expect. There's lots of shot shaping required, and there's also some randomness on this course that is just part of the game. Like you're going to catch a tree. Sometimes it's going to bounce you clean. Other times it's going to fire you into the river. And so you have to be able to adapt to good and bad bounces. And I think that's why we've seen a lot of variance in winners here, is because luck is a factor out here, more so than at some other courses. And it's something to keep an eye on as we go through the weekend. I do think that we may end up, because of the elements, I think stronger players have an advantage, given that they are often going to be just stronger at all parts of the game, able to adapt better to the elements. Maybe we'll see a little bit more of a standard top 10 compared to years past. But we'll have to talk about that when we get to our picks. Other thoughts on Waco?
The one thing I want to add, and this kind of backtracks to what maybe next year would look like, or the differences, I'm really interested. I mean, Ryan talked a little bit about adding that second course in to possibly expand this to a bigger tournament with, multiple rounds. And I'm really interested to see, because Waco it's kind of weird right now because they run the AM side across the river. And, he talks about how they have added cash for the AM side, but is only, just meeting the minimum threshold for a Pro Tour event. It feels odd to me, I guess. And maybe that's not fair, but in a world where your event is probably, and I think a lot of events are having to ask themselves, what do we need to do to stay on tour next year? If we know that they're thinking of adding back Beaver State Fling or Masters Cup or whatever, or new events like Eagles Crossing, then you have to ask yourself, what is it that's going to keep us on the Pro Tour? And a robust AM side isn't going to contribute to that. And we talked about this a little bit with LVC. I'm interested to see if adding that second course is the factor that adds this, like, takes the Waco to the next level. Because as you said, there aren't a lot of things they can do to the course to continue to elevate it. And their added cash isn't blowing away and, reaching the top levels. And so I'm left asking, what is Waco's next step in trying to reach the next level and elevate this tournament? I already think it's an excellent tournament, but in a world where, it's scarce opportunity to be on the Pro Tour, you've got to always be improving.
And like, money is going to become a bigger factor, facility and money is going to start to outweigh things like course as this continues to grow. And, obviously the best courses, they'll find a way, but it's true. You have to figure out how you're going to come up with the money. But the thing is, when you sell out your tournament, spectator tickets, and you have this great course and, everybody's coming out, it's like the first stop in Texas, that should be able to be sold. And so I think it's a matter of, I would love to see Ryan and other TDs say, okay, I'm going to start paying myself and I'm going to work more time on this project, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to either hire somebody or I'm going to myself go and try to sell sponsorships. Because, you are seeing some tournaments, even on courses that are maybe not as, well regarded, who are putting up huge amounts of sponsorship dollars. I feel like some coordination amongst folks and, like, how did you come up with the success to get the money to put into the pot? Because, it sounds like a grind, right? For someone like Ryan, who clearly is just like wants to run the disc golf tournament and maybe isn't as interested in trying to run the business side of the tournament, that can be difficult. In some ways, I wonder if the Pro Tour should start to get involved and, like, have somebody whose job it is to help direct sponsorship sales to individual tournaments. I don't know. There's a lot of ways to kind of get to that point, but it is something that has to be considered as a part of the sort of future of disc golf tournaments on the Pro Tour. So we're going to get to our picks in just a little bit, but first we're going to go inside the circle. Josh, take it away.
2 notes for Inside the Circle. First, we had ratings update yesterday, and, well, I guess 2 days ago at time of publishing. So 2 days ago, we have our ratings update on Tuesday. Over on the FPO side, Paige Pierce remains your highest rated player at 980. Kristen Tatar in second place at 977. And I don't have the stats for this. Statmando, if you're listening, I'd love to get the stats on this. But this feels the closest that anyone has been to Paige in a really long time.
The gap has continued to narrow since Paige, at this time last year, in the March update, had one of her widest leads ever. Mm-hmm. She was up to 996 because she had that very strong season during the pandemic with fewer rounds. And the big question was, can she eclipse 1,000? And coming into Waco, that's what we were talking about. Like, she's going to have a great Texas swing if she wants to hit that 1,000 rated mark, something that she's talked about for a long time as a goal. And she did not play well. And then remember, she took, a few weeks off to go to Hawaii and then came back and dominated for like 6 weeks. But since then, she's dropped 16 ratings points back to 980. Now, 996 was probably a little bit inflated relative to the ability, sort of because of the sort of fewer number of tournaments that were on the slate. So it's set up well for her at that time. But still, I can't say for sure. It's been getting closer now, just a 3-point margin, and that feels right. It doesn't feel like Paige has some big advantage over Kristen Tatar or other players at the top of the, FPO leaderboard.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it's like, okay, can you prove it that you still belong at number one? And that's what this season's going to prove.
Yeah. Rounding out our top 6, Evelina, 976. So it goes US, European. And then Katrina at 971, Haley King at 970, and Henna Blomroos at 968. So top 6 are still 3 American, 3 European. I think, though, that Henna did have a drop due to her play. Lost 5 points.
Drop.
Yep. So
yeah, LVC
yeah.
put a little dent in the rating.
But overall, still, this feels pretty accurate. The only thing I would say feels I feel like Katrina should be a little bit higher, just based on recent, but that's probably recency bias from LVC.
Yeah, and remember with ratings, it's also about what dropped off the back end of your rating. It's not just about what you've done lately. So there's impacts there, and you also get to drop certain rounds. If you have a really bad single round, it gets dropped. So that can sort of mitigate the impact of having a bad round here and there. So, it's not it's not a power
No,
ranking,
it's not.
It's a weighted average of your last year of play.
Yep. So anyway, but this feels pretty accurate overall for I think on the FPO side. Over on the MPO side, Eagle McMahon now stands alone as your highest rated player at 1055. Ricky dropped to 1053, and Paul Macbeth is at 1050. That rounds out your 1050 club. Your 1040 club, Calvin Heimberg at 1048, Matty O at 1044, Andrew Simmons at 1044, Chris Dickerson 1043, Adam Hammis 1041, and your newest entry, Kyle Klein, hits the 1040 mark.
Congrats to Kyle Klein. A good overall Discmania day.
Yeah.
Kyle Klein gets to 1040, Eagle at the number 1 spot. Again, this shows you that a lot of it has to do with what have you done for me? What happened a year ago? And Eagle played pretty well at LVC except for one really bad round. That bad round, his final round, was dropped
because there was too many standard deviations.
He wasn't punished. Yeah, it was just like that's not who he is basically. Yep. And the ratings account for that. Whether you think Eagle's number 1 in the world right now or not, that's what the ratings show. That's what the last year has shown. I think, obviously with the injury, and being idle doesn't really hurt you much in the ratings department, so that won't affect things. But he's been at number 1 before, but still interesting to see him get back to the top, and a little extra motivation for Ricky and Paul.
Moving then over to our next Inside the Circle.
Before we do that, though, I want to quickly shout out Gannon Burr, who went up 10 ratings points.
Wow.
And has now climbed. He was basically 1,000 rated at the end of 2020 and is now almost to 1040, which is remarkable.
That's okay, I guess. Good for you, Gannon. That's exciting. Do you think... All right, here you go, Charlie. Who hits 1040 first? Drew Gibson at 1038 or Gannon Burr at 1037?
I'll take Drew.
Take Drew. Okay. Is Drew playing at all in the month of March?
Drew's next event. Let's take a look at his PDGA page. I think he might not be playing again until Champions Cup, which is in April. He is playing a maybe this is a B tier, A tier. It's a St. Patrick's Classic A tier in California, but he won't be playing on the Elite Series or Majors again until April 14th at the Champions.
Okay. Gannon is playing Waco, Open at Belton, and Texas States. So basically, you're betting as to whether or not Gannon can hit it this month?
Yeah, I mean, and maybe Drew goes out there and shreds it at the St. Patrick's Classic.
That's true. That may be an easy course. Maybe he's doing it just to get to the 1040 mark. Awesome. Okay, well, next on our Inside the Circle, Innova has announced the release of the Mid-Disc 3. This is a continuation on the lineup of what were formerly the Discmania Originals line. They've released the Fairway Disc, and the Mid-Disc 3 is coincidentally named the Metal Knight.
There's not much more needs to be said.
No.
Look, this is, I think this is kind of like a sideshow, but it's obviously incredibly petty and just like totally a snipe at Discmania. What else is there to say? I mean, I think obviously Innova was going to release these discs again under their own brand. Duh. Why would they not do that? In fact, I mean, I am seeing people online who are saying, well, I can't get X Discmania original. I'm going to get the Innova version because it's the same disc. Yeah, that's smart business. I have no... it would be ridiculous for them not to release these discs again. However, the naming conventions, the marketing of these discs, the stamps, the like sub names with the knight and stuff, it's obviously all darts at Discmania. People who are claiming these are not darts at Discmania are willfully pulling the wool over their own eyes. I don't really know that. I mean, it's just incredibly petty. I don't know what else there is to say. I find it kind of funny. I find it kind of mean. And it's just another brick in the wall of pettiness that is in the disc golf industry. There's a lot of it.
there is a lot of it. That's all I got to add too. So go get yourself a Metal Knight, I guess.
God, such a snipe. Okay, I got an over-under for you.
Okay,
Josh.
I'm ready for it.
Ricky Wysocki does not always play his best at Waco. He only has 6 career finishes outside the top 10 at DGPT elite events.
Okay.
If you don't count the times when he DNFs.
Sure.
So 3 of the 6 of his outside the top 10 finishes have come at Waco in 2018, 2020, and 2021. So the last 2 years, he's missed the top 10. He was 49th at Waco 2020. He was 11th at Waco 2021.
Okay.
Okay. So Josh, over under 10.5, Ricky Wysocki's finish at Waco 2022. That's the best number you're going to get on Ricky all season.
I know it is.
Fields deeper this year.
Fields deeper. Bad weather. Ricky's got a new bag. Where did he finish at LVC? I know that's not the same, but
It's fair to ask the question. He played pretty well. He was 7th.
But he was only 1 stroke ahead of 10th. That's not unreasonable. And he's got the new bag with the crazy weather.
The putter wasn't that good at LVC.
And now he's putting in wind. I'm going to...
Does the wind equalize? That's the question. It makes other people worse, too.
That's true. I'm going to take... Oh, my gosh. This is such a good number. I'm going to take the under. I'm never going to get the chance. Like you said, this is the best number I'm going to get on Ricky all season long.
So
and
you want him in the top 10.
I want him in the top 10. And despite all the factors that I think compel me otherwise, I'm going to give him the under.
I mean, getting to pick one of the best players in the world just to have to make the top 10 is a good situation. But
it is.
It is an interesting set of numbers. So thanks to Stat Mando for the stat. All right, time to get to our picks. I doubt you're going to have Ricky in your top 3 given your deliberations.
Ricky is not my top 3.
But I'll let you go ahead and who you got in MPO?
All right. In MPO, I am taking in third place contract year Calvin. Calvin, I mean, he obviously played well at Vegas. I think that Waco, he does have, I think, the skills necessary and also the patience. I mean, that's something that I feel like Calvin in a lot of cases does have. We'll see if his putting issues get exacerbated in the wind. My gut, though, feels like it kind of brings everyone else down and Calvin's going to remain pretty consistent. I mean, we've seen him play well in pretty abysmal weather, see USDGC 2 years ago. And so
Calvin was in 4th place at this tournament last year, by the way.
Okay.
So he's played well.
And he has played well here in the past. So Calvin feels like just a player who I think is going to be able to weather those elements pretty well. My second place I have is Kevin Jones. I picked Kevin because, as Ryan talked about, having a flip-up forehand is really valuable. I think Kevin, when you think about the kind of lines that Waco has to be thrown, I really feel like that suits Kevin's game well here. He has that flip-up forehand. He's got the variety of shots on the backhand, and his circle 2 putting is usually quite excellent. And so it feels like a kind of perfect combo for Waco and kind of the way that the course sets up for him. Last year, he took, it was not a good year for him. He took 54th. Not a great pick. And
it's a weird course. I don't know. The skill set that Kevin has does seem like it would play well.
It does, but he doesn't have a good history here. So I recognize I'm betting kind of against his history here, but I still feel confident just based on those kind of skills and the way that Kevin kind of came back at LVC and snuck up into 4th place feels like Kevin could do well this weekend. My number 1 pick, though, guy who's tried and true, proven here, Paul McBeth. He, over the past 4 years, has a 3rd place, a 1st place, a 2nd place, and a 5th place. He shot 18 under here and made them change par so that no one could ever do that again. He plays well here. He played well at Memorial. He doesn't look rusty at all. And, if there's someone else who I think is experienced in adverse weather conditions, Paul McBeth is going to be on there. So I will take Paul McBeth, take the win.
All right. Paul's on my podium, but I don't have him winning. I've got Cale LaVisca in 3rd place.
Oh, okay.
Cale has been one of the best finishers at this tournament over the last couple of years. He was in 2nd place last year, 3 shots back of Nico. He was also on the podium in 2020. So I'm calling for Cale. He's got to start rebuild the cash streak. And why not go out there and finish on the podium for a 3rd year in a row at Waco? Just a great control player in general. McBeth is in 2nd place for me. What more needs to be said? You can pick any tournament out of a hat, and Paul McBeth's probably finished 1st, 3rd, 2nd, 5th, like you said, at this tournament. But, that's why it's an easy podium pick, and, his first tournament on the Pro Tour for the season. In 1st place, I'm going with Calvin Heimberg. I feel like, it's easy to write off Calvin because he had the one shaky putting round at LVC. I just watched him throw a putter on 18 and park the hole on Instagram. And what more do I need to see than that? That's enough for me to pick him. That's
fair. So you got over an FPO.
Over an FPO, I have Owen Scoggins in 3rd place. Owen played very well here last year. Still ended up losing to Kona Panis by 12 strokes. But, that Kona was in the zone of zones. It was unbelievable. She basically just got to cruise in the 3rd round. There was never any pressure. Wild performance. But Owen played very well as well. I have Kristen Tatar in 2nd place. Tatar coming off of a good LVC, a win at the Memorial, continuing to just look sharper and sharper, I feel like, every time we watch her play. But I have Evelina Salonen in 1st place. She won this event in 2020. And look, I get that this is kind of a spicy pick because the putter did not look good at Memorial. I just feel like sometimes you got to find it, and Waco is a place to find a little magic in the air. And so I want a little weirdness, and I'm going with a little weirdness with Evelina Salonen taking it down.
All right. It's interesting that the past 2 winners of LVC have been FPO who are notorious for rough putting. Is it past 3?
Putting.
Past 3 winners? Because Katrina won. Granted, Katrina's got the amazing Circle 2 putt, but that's,
Streaky putters.
Streaky putters. Yeah.
It's true.
Okay, I like the picks. In my third place, I have the Texas native Valerie Mondahanu coming in third.
Love that pick.
She's done 5th and 6th place in the past 2 events. At 6th place last year, she gave up 7 strokes on hole 18 in the last 2 rounds. She had a triple bogey and a quadruple bogey in rounds 3 and 2 respectively. You get rid of those, and she still finished at 1 over in 6th place. You get rid of those, she's in a clear 2nd place. I really think that she has the capacity, and we've only seen her go up from there. So I think she's got a great capacity to do well here. My 2nd place pick, Sarah Hokum. She has not missed the top 4 at this event in the past 5 years. And, I think this kind of goes back to the Paul Macbeth putt. In a tournament that offers no consistency in winners, pick the one player who is the most consistent at hitting the podium in order to give yourself a nice base. So Sarah Hokum is going to anchor my 2nd position in order to help get me some points. And then my winner, I've got Kristen Tatar.
Calling for the back-to-back.
Yeah. Yep. I'm putting her down. I didn't. The back-to-back.
From Memorial.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Tournament.
Yeah. Yep. From Memorial. Yep. Back-to-back. I mean, if the trend follows last year, Charlie, she needed one warm-up and then the rest of the season's hers, right? So, yeah, I think Kristen in the lead. I think it's interesting that neither of us have Paige or Katrina in our top 3 here. So,
I mean, I definitely considered Katrina a lot. I will not be surprised. I mean, look, I won't be surprised if either of them does well, but it's just this tournament.
It's just this tournament.
If there's a tournament where I'm going to actively leave off Paige Pierce, it's here.
It's Texas.
Yeah. Paige last year, just for both of those players, Paige finished 5th. Katrina finished 7th. So there you go. Those are our picks. They're in the books. Waco starts tomorrow. Live coverage will be on the Disc Golf Network. And then, of course, all of the standard post-production, Jomez, GK, Gatekeeper. And looking forward to it. Do not miss our live Rapid React show on Sunday night after Waco. Looking forward to bringing you that. You can become a subscriber to hear that. It'll be live in Discord. Go to discgolf.ultworld.com/subscribe in order to become a subscriber for less than $4 a month and get all of our Upshot bonus episodes along with many other benefits like this week's Cashline Business Newsletter, which talks player agents, intellectual property in disc golf, and a lot more. So we hope you become a subscriber. Email us anytime, upshot@ultworld.com. Let us know your thoughts on Waco, your picks for Waco, and we will look forward to talking to you live on Sunday night and then next week right here on The Upshot.